The jungle world of Valrune was famous for its dangerous beauty. Every tree stood taller than city towers, every shadow moved like a living creature, and every sound made the travelers tense. The royal exploration caravan walked carefully through the deep green forest as strange lights flickered between leaves. The air felt heavy, almost watching them. Even the alien guards, trained since childhood, kept a tight grip on their energy spears. Somewhere near the center of the group walked a human named Evan Hale. He looked like the simplest, calmest person in the entire caravan. He had no armored plates, no bright symbols of rank, and no glowing marks on his skin like the alien warriors. His clothes were plain, just dark boots, a traveler's jacket, and a small pack at his side. Most of the aliens saw him and whispered that he was surely a beginner, a man who had never been in real danger. Princess Aerith Valiren, heir to the Valrune throne, also believed something similar. She had met humans before, but Evan seemed different from the others. He did not speak much, he did not show off strength, and he did not try to impress anyone. He looked almost too normal. She wondered why the Human Alliance had chosen him for a political mission as important as this one. She tried to be respectful, but part of her felt he would slow down the expedition. Still, every time she looked at him, she noticed something strange. His eyes never stopped watching the jungle. His steps were silent. His attention was sharp, as if he was not walking through unknown land but through a place he already understood. That confused her. How could a human, born on a world far from Valrune, look more comfortable here than her own guards? The day passed with a hot sun burning through the forest roof. Strange animal calls echoed again and again. Some sounded like deep drums, some like metal scraping stone. The alien warriors flinched lightly every time, but Evan simply listened, nodded to himself, and continued walking. After long hours of travel, the caravan stopped beside a cluster of glowing blue stones. The heat of afternoon slowly faded as night approached. The guards formed a protective circle. Lights were placed around the area, and food packs were opened. Princess Aerith sat near a small fire, looking at a tablet that showed the updated map. Her mission was simple: explore a forbidden region known as the Hollow Expanse, gather evidence about old ruins, and return safely. But everyone knew the expanse was filled with creatures that most species never survived meeting. Aerith looked around and saw Evan sitting alone at the edge of the camp. He had not touched his food pack yet. Instead, he was examining the ground, feeling the dirt between his fingers. She walked toward him, wondering what he was doing. "Is everything okay, human Evan?" she asked gently. He looked up with a small, calm smile. "Yes, princess. Just checking the soil." She blinked. "Is something strange about it?" "Not the soil," he said softly. "Something heavy passed through here earlier. Maybe 2 hours ago. Something big enough to shake the roots." Her body stiffened. Why did the scanners not detect it? Evan shrugged lightly. Scanners don't always catch creatures that move lower than the surface. Some predators here know how to stay hidden. They travel just under the ground layer. The princess stared at him, unsure what to say. How did he know that? He had arrived on Valrune only 3 days ago. He should not know more than their own researchers. But he spoke with quiet confidence, like someone talking about the weather. Before she could ask more, an alien guard called her name. The caravan needed her for a route decision. She nodded to Evan and walked away. But her mind kept returning to his words. Something heavy passed through here. Something scanners could not detect. She felt a thin line of fear climb up her spine. Night fell completely. The lights around the camp flickered gently, keeping away smaller creatures. Everyone tried to relax, but the jungle outside felt too alive, too awake. Strange, glowing insects hovered above the group. Leaves rustled. Deep growls echoed somewhere far away. Evan sat quietly beside the fire now, warming his hands. Aerith noticed that even when he looked relaxed, he still watched the shadows. His eyes followed every movement, with the patience of someone used to danger. Hours passed. Some guards slept while others stayed on rotation. Aerith tried to rest, but sleep did not come easily. Something felt wrong. The air itself seemed too silent, as if the jungle was holding its breath. Then, just past midnight, the silence broke. A scream echoed through the camp. A shadow flew across the firelight. Lights snapped on. Guards lifted spears and shouted commands. The ground trembled violently, and glowing eyes appeared between the trees, dozens of them. Princess Aerith felt her heart drop. Shadayclaw stalkers, the most feared predators on the planet. They moved out of the darkness, low to the ground, each one taller than a warrior, and fast enough to rip through metal plates. Their long claws scraped against stone, their jaws opened wide, and their tails swayed like whips. The guards formed a defensive formation. But panic spread quickly. Energy spears sparked as the warriors tried to aim. But the stalkers were too many. "Princess, get behind us!" a guard shouted. Aerith stepped back, breathing fast. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She knew very well what Shadclaw stalkers could do to a traveler. She watched one tear apart a training drone once. The memory alone was terrifying. Evan stood up slowly. He had no weapon in his hands. He looked at the predators with calm eyes, as if this was not the first time he had faced something like this. Aerith felt a rush of fear for him. "Evan, stay back," she cried. "They will kill you." But he did not move away. Instead, he stepped forward. The shod claws growled louder. Some crouched, preparing to leap. The guards shouted warnings, but Evan ignored them. He continued walking, each step steady and fearless. And then something happened that no one in the caravan, even the princess, could understand. The predators froze. Every single Shadclaw stopped mid-movement. Their growls cut off. Their glowing eyes focused only on the human who stood in front of them. He did nothing threatening. He simply stood tall, staring back at them. But the stalkers reacted as if they had seen a nightmare. Their ears pulled back. Their tails lowered. Their bodies shrank closer to the ground. One of them whimpered. Another took a slow step backward. Then another. Princess Aerith felt her mouth fall open. The guards did not dare move. Their weapons trembled in their hands. Shadclaw stalkers never backed away, not from royal warriors, not from machines, not from anything. Yet here they were, dozens of them, slowly moving away from one unarmed human. Aerith whispered, This is impossible." Evan raised one hand slightly, not in aggression but like someone calming a nervous animal. The stalkers reacted instantly. They backed even farther. Some turned around. Some disappeared into the jungle. The others soon followed, until the forest fell silent again. No one spoke for a long time. Aerith felt her heart pounding. Her breath came out unstable. She stared at Evan as if seeing him for the first time. He stood still, watching the shadows, until he was sure the predators had left. Then he turned to her with a calm face, as if nothing special had happened. "Are you all right, Princess?" he asked gently. She swallowed hard. "Evan, what did you do? Why did they back away from you?" He gave a small, quiet smile. "Humans learned long ago how to deal with hunters like these." She shook her head. "But you didn't do anything violent. You didn't even hold a weapon." "Predators can sense something," he said. "They recognize a kind of danger, one that doesn't need armor or claws." Aerith stared into his eyes. There was no fear in them, only calm strength. She felt the world shift inside her. The human she had believed was just a novice had walked straight toward monsters and made them retreat without lifting a finger. Nothing in her royal education had prepared her for that. As the guards slowly regained order and checked the area, Aerith stood beside Evan and whispered so only he could hear, "Who are you really?" Evan looked at the dark jungle and answered in a quiet voice, "Just a human who grew up around predators." But the way he said it made her feel he was something far more dangerous and far more extraordinary than anyone had imagined. The morning sun rose over the jungle, filtering through the thick leaves in golden streams. Birds with bright feathers called from high branches, but the forest seemed calmer than usual. Even the wind moved with caution, rustling the leaves softly. The caravan had moved deeper into the hollow expanse, but no one seemed to speak above whispers. Yesterday's events still weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Princess Aerith walked beside Evan, trying to make sense of what she had seen. The human had faced dozens of apex predators, and not only survived but caused them to retreat. It was something she could not explain. Other humans she had met were skilled, yes, but Evan's calm courage and natural authority over the beasts went far beyond what anyone had witnessed before. "You seem different," she said finally, keeping her voice low. "The predators, they acted like they knew you, or at least understood something about you." "Why is that?" Evan glanced at her with a faint smile. "I grew up in wild places, Princess. Places with creatures stronger than anything here. You learn quickly who to fear, and who fears you." Aerith's eyes widened. "You mean Earth?" She had read history, seen the records, but she could not imagine humans surviving there. "You mean you've faced predators like these before?" Evan shrugged slightly. "I've survived some, yes, not all. But you don't need to fight everything. You need to know when to move, when to watch, and when to be calm. The predators can feel that." She fell silent, thinking. His words were simple, but they carried a weight she could feel in her chest. The guards had stopped in front and behind them, keeping the caravan moving safely. Still, Aerith could not stop watching him. Even in the quiet morning, he scanned the surroundings constantly, noticing signs she and her guards had missed. Broken branches, footprints, faint scratches on rocks, small trails where creatures had passed. They had not gone far when a sound made the group halt. A low, vibrating growl rolled through the trees. The alien guards stiffened, raising weapons. Aerith's pulse quickened. She had learned to recognize warning signs in nature. And this one was different. This was not an ordinary predator, it was something larger. Something that commanded the jungle. Evan stopped and crouched slightly, listening. The rest of the group waited nervously. "Stay calm," he whispered. "It's not hunting yet. But it is curious." Aerith glanced at him, astonished. "Curious? These creatures don't come here out of curiosity. They kill." "They usually do," Evan replied. "But some have caution in their instincts. You just need to understand what scares them, and what earns their respect." From the shadows emerged the creature, a titan moss serpent. Its body stretched longer than the caravan itself, scales reflecting the sun in shifting colors. Its eyes glowed like lanterns. Scanning the travelers, it hissed, sending vibrations through the ground. Guards trembled and backed away, energy spears raised. Aerith felt her stomach twist in fear. Evan did not move backward. He calmly stepped closer to the princess and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Do exactly as I say," he whispered. "Move behind that rock. Stay low, and follow my lead." She nodded, her heart pounding. She had no idea how this human would protect her from a creature bigger and faster than any warrior she knew. Evan motioned to the guards. "Not too close. Stay in a circle. Don't panic. And keep your eyes on the serpent. It will test us first. Not attack immediately." The titan moss serpent flicked its long tongue, tasting the air, watching them. Then it lunged, not at the humans but at a tree nearby. The ground shook as it landed, and branches broke with loud snaps. Some guards gasped and took small steps back. Evan moved quietly to the side, pulling a rope and a few sticks from his pack. He placed them along a path that led toward a cliff edge, setting a simple but clever trap. "Distract, but don't corner it," he said to the closest guards. "The rest of you watch the tail. It can crush you in a strike." Aerith watched, mesmerized. The human moved like someone who had done this before countless times. He did not run. He did not panic. He studied the creature, predicted its moves, and quietly gave orders. Slowly, almost impossibly, he guided the serpent toward the cliff, using its own instincts against it. The creature hissed and struggled, but followed the path. Then, with a final, precise motion, Evan triggered the trap. The serpent stumbled and fell into a deep crevice. its roar echoing through the jungle before fading away. The group stared in disbelief. No one had moved as calmly and effectively as he had. Not even the veteran alien warriors could claim that skill. Aerith's voice was barely audible. How? How did you do that? Evan wiped his hands on his jacket, breathing slowly. I've learned patience. Animals respond to fear and respect. If you show neither in the wrong way, they step aside. It's not about strength, it's about understanding. Her mind raced. She had misjudged him. This human, whom she thought weak and inexperienced, had just outsmarted and controlled a creature that even her most skilled warriors would hesitate to face. The rest of the journey through the expanse was tense but smoother. Aerith began to notice more details she had overlooked. Evan was not just brave, he was observant, intelligent, and careful. He noticed faint trails where the jungle floor had been disturbed, predicted animal movements, and even pointed out hidden dangers such as thin vines and loose soil that could trap unwary travelers. At one point, they passed a river with currents that could easily sweep someone away. The alien warriors hesitated, unsure where to step. Evan stepped forward, testing the water flow with a stick, then helped guide each warrior carefully across. He balanced patience and caution with quick decision-making. Aerith could not stop watching him. He moved as if he belonged in the wild, yet his eyes never lost kindness. Unlike the alien warriors, whose skills were often brutal and sharp, he combined intelligence, observation, and subtle guidance in a way that seemed effortless. By the time the caravan reached a small, abandoned outpost, the sun was setting. Shadows stretched across broken walls and scattered equipment. Aerith walked beside Evan, feeling a mix of fear and awe. I thought humans were fragile, she said quietly. I thought you were just a diplomat, nothing more. Evan smiled faintly. Humans are fragile in some ways, yes. But we survive because we learn fast, adapt, and never underestimate danger. Strength isn't only physical, it's understanding, planning, and sometimes knowing when to stand still. Aerith nodded slowly, realizing how wrong she had been. This human was not just capable, he was extraordinary. She felt a strange mix of respect and curiosity growing inside her. She wanted to know more about him, about the world he had come from, and how humans had survived when so many species could not. The outpost was empty and silent, but it offered some safety. The caravan set up a temporary camp. Evan helped check the perimeter, quietly ensuring there were no hidden dangers. He moved with a light touch, listening to the jungle, watching for subtle signs of life. Aerith could not stop thinking about the predators they had faced, about the Titan Maw serpent, and about how Evan had managed every encounter with calm precision. She realized she had judged him based on appearances and assumptions. She had been completely wrong. As they prepared to rest, Evan approached her. Princess, you should try to sleep. We have a long journey ahead tomorrow, and the forest isn't forgiving to tired travelers. She nodded but could not stop staring. Evan, I underestimated you. You're not what I thought. She hesitated, searching for words. You're more than a human I expected. He smiled softly. I'm just a human who has learned to survive. Nothing more. And nothing less. She looked at him and realized that the simplicity of his words carried power. It was not arrogance. It was truth. He had faced danger calmly, led without commanding, and protected her without hesitation. He had shown her a side of humanity she had never seen, clever, resilient, and quietly strong. The night passed with little disturbance. The humans and aliens took shifts watching the camp, but the jungle seemed to respect Evan's presence. Predators stayed farther away, and no creatures ventured near the outpost. Aerith could not shake the thought that the forest itself had recognized him as different. By dawn, she was awake before most of the caravan. She found Evan standing at the edge of the camp, looking out into the jungle. He seemed at peace, almost part of the forest. Good morning, she said softly. He turned and smiled. Morning, princess. Ready for the next leg of the journey? She nodded. feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. Yes, but I want to understand more. About you. About humans. About how you faced those predators yesterday. Evan glanced at her. All in good time. You'll see as we go. For now, stay close and trust your instincts. And trust me, the forest has its dangers, but it also has its rules. Once you learn them, survival becomes possible. Aerith took a deep breath, realizing that the human beside her was teaching her something more than survival. He was teaching her the value of calm, courage, and understanding. For the first time, she began to see humans as a species shaped not by raw power, but by intelligence, patience, and the ability to face the impossible without fear. As the caravan packed and continued into the deeper reaches of the hollow expanse, Aerith stayed close to Evan. She no longer saw him as a novice. She saw him as something remarkable, something the galaxy had not fully understood. And as the jungle shadows stretched longer across the path, she could feel that their journey would reveal even greater dangers, dangers that would test every lesson he had taught, and perhaps show her the full truth of human strength. The hollow expanse grew darker and denser as the caravan moved deeper into the jungle. Shadows twisted between massive trunks, and strange vines hung like silent warnings from the trees. The air was thick and humid, filled with the smells of wet soil and distant flowers that glowed faintly in the half-light. Every sound was amplified: the snap of a branch, the flutter of wings, or the distant roar of some unseen creature. Even the alien guards, experienced hunters and warriors, moved cautiously, their senses sharpened by instinct and fear. Princess Aerith stayed close to Evan, unable to take her eyes off him. Every step he took seemed deliberate. Every glance, scanning the environment with unmatched awareness. The events of the previous day, the predators that had backed away at his presence, the Titan Maw serpent he had outwitted, were still vivid in her mind. She had seen him in action, and yet she understood only a fraction of the depth of his abilities. Evan, she said quietly as they paused near a glowing grove, I still don't understand. How did the predators recognize you? How could a human barely armed, unenhanced command such respect from creatures that even our best warriors fear? Evan crouched to inspect the ground, brushing his fingers over broken leaves and flattened soil. It's not about power, he said softly. Predators, even the strongest, sense patterns. They know the difference between panic and control, fear and respect. I've lived where predators are everything. You learn to move in ways that show confidence, not aggression. That's what they felt yesterday. That's why they stepped back. Aerith watched him closely. There was no boastfulness, no pride, only quiet truth. She had misjudged him, and she could feel her respect growing, mixed with a strange curiosity. Humans were unpredictable, but in a way that frightened and fascinated her at the same time. The caravan continued, following a narrow path through towering trees. Strange creatures darted in and out of the undergrowth, some moving in packs, some gliding silently between the branches. Evan's eyes flicked constantly, catching movements the aliens themselves missed. He paused, pointed, whispered instructions, and guided the caravan with subtle gestures that kept everyone safe. Each time a creature approached, he calculated their behavior, adjusted their movements, and avoided confrontation whenever possible. His calm authority radiated outward, giving even the anxious warriors a sense of safety. At midday, they reached a clearing containing the ruins of an old alien research station. Crumbling walls, broken windows, and scattered equipment suggested it had been abandoned for decades. Evan carefully examined the area before the group entered. There could be predators hiding here, he said. Or traps. Move slowly, and keep your senses alert. Inside the station, the group found scattered logs, some broken equipment, and the faint hum of long-dead technology. Aerith sifted through the records, but most were unreadable, or in a language she did not understand. Evan, however, moved through the area as if he had done it 1,000 times before, noting subtle signs of movement, scratches on walls, footprints near the entrances, small objects slightly displaced. Every observation he made seemed trivial, but she knew it could mean life or death. As the day passed, Aerith began to understand the truth. Evan's abilities were not magical. They were honed through experience. He had survived where others had failed, and those experiences shaped every instinct, every glance, every step. Humans, she realized, were far more resilient than she had believed. Their survival did not come from strength alone, but from intelligence, observation, and the ability to remain calm in the face of overwhelming danger. Later, as the caravan moved on, a warning sound reached them, a low, vibrating growl that reverberated through the clearing. The guards froze, their weapons ready, eyes scanning the darkness. From the shadows emerged a massive creature. A predator unlike any they had faced before. Its body was long and sinuous, covered with scales that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Its head was crowned with ridges and spines, and its eyes glowed like lanterns, reflecting the fear of anyone who dared meet them. This was a Titan maw serpent, larger and more cunning than the one they had encountered previously. The guards tensed, stepping back instinctively. Some whispered prayers, others shouted warnings. Aerith's heart raced. The serpent's presence alone made the ground tremble, and she could feel the weight of its gaze pressing down on them. Evan did not move backward. He stood in the center of the path, calm, observing the creature with sharp focus. "It's testing us," he said softly. "Don't panic. Watch me, and follow my lead." The serpent lunged toward a tree nearby, crushing its trunk with a loud crack. The guards gasped and adjusted their positions, unsure how to respond. Evan moved deliberately, placing small sticks and ropes along the path, creating subtle signals and triggers that could guide the creature's movements. His actions were precise, measured, almost like a dance. "Careful with the tail," he warned. "It can crush you without a second thought." The creature twisted and lunged again. But Evan anticipated its moves. With a few calculated maneuvers, he guided it toward a narrow canyon edge. Using the environment to his advantage, he triggered a trap he had set, causing the Titan maw serpent to stumble and fall into a deep crevice. Its roar echoed through the trees before fading into silence. Aerith stared at him in awe. He had not fought with weapons or brute strength, yet he had controlled a creature that could easily have destroyed them all. She could feel her assumptions about humans shattering. "Why? How did you know what to do?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Evan smiled faintly. "Experience, observation, understanding. You survive in a world like Earth by learning to predict danger before it acts, and by moving with calm purpose. Predators respond to that. They can sense hesitation and weakness. We learn to avoid both." The rest of the caravan moved cautiously, but the atmosphere had changed. Even the alien guards, who had doubted him before, now followed Evan's lead with quiet trust. Aerith walked beside him, feeling a mixture of fear and awe. This human, whom she had thought unarmed and inexperienced, had just demonstrated skills that were beyond their understanding. As they set up camp later, Aerith found herself beside him, unable to stop watching. "You're not what I expected," she said quietly. "I thought humans were fragile. I thought you were just a diplomat. But you are something else entirely." Evan glanced at her calmly. "I'm just a human who learned to survive. Nothing more, nothing less." She studied him, realizing that his simplicity held power. It was not arrogance, it was confidence, born from experience, from facing danger, and learning to master it without relying on weapons or enhancements. She could feel the truth in his words. The quiet strength that had caused predators to back away. The intelligence that had outwitted the Titan maw serpent. The night passed with little disturbance. Predators stayed away, as if the forest itself had recognized Evan's presence. Aerith could not shake the feeling that she had underestimated humans for too long. She had assumed fragility, weakness, and lack of skill. But Evan had shown her another side. Patience, awareness, courage, and quiet authority. By dawn, the caravan was packed and ready to move deeper into the expanse. Aerith stood beside Evan once more, looking at the dense forest ahead. "There is still so much to learn," she said softly. "About this world, and about humans." Evan turned to her with a faint smile. "You'll see. Humans survive because we adapt, because we watch, and because we understand danger in ways most species cannot. That's all there is to it." She nodded, realizing that she had seen only the beginning. The jungle held more threats, and she could feel that Evan's abilities would be tested further. But for the first time, she did not feel fear when he was near. She felt trust, respect, and a sense of safety she had never known before. As they moved forward, the shadows of the hollow expanse stretched long and dark across the path. Strange sounds echoed, some familiar, some unknown. Yet Aerith kept pace beside Evan, understanding that the human beside her was not a novice, not fragile, and not ordinary. He was extraordinary. The predators of the jungle recognized it instinctively, even if the aliens did not. And as the caravan disappeared further into the forest, Aerith could feel that the journey ahead would reveal even greater truths. Truths about the dangers of the expanse, the cunning of the alien world, and the hidden strengths of humanity that the galaxy had long underestimated. She had misjudged him once. She would not make that mistake again. The deeper the caravan traveled into the hollow expanse, the darker and more dangerous the jungle became. Thick vines twisted like living snakes, and the ground was soft and unstable, hiding roots and holes that could trip the unwary. Strange sounds echoed from all directions. High-pitched screeches, deep growls, and distant crashes that made even the bravest alien warriors pause. Yet Evan moved with calm precision, guiding the group without hesitation, observing every shadow and every movement as if he belonged in the forest. Princess Aerith stayed close to him, her heart racing but her trust growing with each step. The events of the past 2 days had shattered all her assumptions. She now understood that Evan's presence was more than reassuring, it was commanding. The predators had recognized something in him, a confidence and skill born from survival, something that even the jungle seemed to respect. She could see why the creatures had backed away when he faced them unarmed. She could feel it in her bones. Humans were not fragile, not ordinary, they were extraordinary in ways she had never imagined. The caravan had barely reached a wide clearing when they heard the first signs of danger. The leaves rustled unnaturally, and the ground trembled under heavy footsteps. Shadows moved between the trees, and the guards immediately took defensive positions. Aerith's pulse quickened. She had expected predators, but this felt different. The vibrations were heavier, more controlled. From the trees emerged a group of alien mercenaries. They were well armed, with strange energy weapons that hummed in the air. Their armor gleamed under the filtered sunlight, and their faces were hidden behind dark helmets. They were after her. Aerith could feel it. She realized instantly that this was no ordinary threat. These aliens wanted her because of her royal blood, believing it could unlock an ancient power buried within the jungle. The guards raised their weapons, ready to defend her, but the mercenaries were experienced and fierce. Aerith's stomach tightened with fear. She had faced danger before, but never like this. Her body instinctively sought Evan, who was standing calmly at her side. "Princess, stay behind me," Evan said quietly, his eyes scanning the mercenaries' positions. His voice was calm, steady, and somehow unshakable. "Watch my movements and trust what I do. Do exactly as I say." Aerith nodded, her fear mixing with awe. She had come to rely on him more than anyone else in the caravan. He had survived predators, guided them through the jungle, and taught her the strength of calm intelligence. Now, she realized, the true test of his abilities had arrived. The mercenaries advanced, their weapons glowing and charging with energy. The guards fired back, but the aliens moved swiftly, dodging attacks and countering with precision. The clearing erupted into chaos, with energy blasts lighting up the trees, leaves falling like rain. Aerith's heart pounded as she watched, frozen in fear for a moment before Evan's hand gently touched her arm. "Move behind the boulder," "Stay low. Keep quiet," he instructed softly. She obeyed without question, crouching as he positioned himself between her and the approaching mercenaries. Evan's eyes never left the enemies. But there was something else. The jungle around them seemed to change. Shadows shifted. Not from the mercenaries, but from the undergrowth itself. Leaves moved, and low growls resonated from hidden spaces. Aerith's eyes widened. Predators were approaching. But these were not ordinary creatures. The Shadclaws and the Titan Maw serpents, along with dozens of other apex hunters of the expanse, emerged from the shadows. Their movements were coordinated, silent, and deliberate. They did not attack the humans or the caravan. Instead, they formed a protective circle around Evan, as if awaiting his signal. The mercenaries froze. Even their war beasts hesitated. They had never faced humans like this, humans commanding the respect of creatures they could not control. Fear spread among the invaders. The predator's presence alone was intimidating, but the coordination, the discipline, and the calm authority emanating from Evan made them step back. Evan took a deep breath and moved forward. His hands were empty. Yet every step he took seemed to direct the predators around him. The mercenaries' weapons fired, but the blasts were carefully avoided, as if the jungle itself was protecting him. Each predator acted with intelligence, blocking attacks, hurting enemies, and responding to subtle commands that only Evan could give. Aerith watched in disbelief. The humans she had underestimated were not just survivors, they were leaders, strategists, and protectors. She had assumed fragility, but here was proof that humans were capable of commanding forces that even trained warriors could not understand. Evan moved with precision, his gestures small but powerful. He did not shout orders. He did not fight aggressively. Instead, he guided the predators as if they were extensions of his own instincts. Shadeclaws struck at the mercenaries, not savagely, but with coordinated strikes that disarmed and disabled. Titan Maw serpents blocked approaches, forcing the enemy to retreat. Smaller predators darted in and out, causing confusion and fear. The mercenaries realized too late that they were facing something they could not control. Their advanced weapons were ineffective, their strategies failing. One by one, they were forced back, their confidence shattered. Aerith could barely comprehend what was happening. The human, who had seemed like a novice, was now commanding the deadliest creatures in the jungle, turning them against trained warriors without ever raising a weapon. Finally, the last of the mercenaries fell back, retreating into the shadows. The jungle returned to silence, the predators slowly dispersing, leaving only Evan standing in the clearing. He looked calm, almost casual, as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. Aerith ran to him, her heart still pounding. "Evan, you controlled them all," she exclaimed, her voice trembling. How is this possible?" Evan looked at her, his expression gentle but firm. "It's not magic, princess. It's instinct, experience, and understanding. Humans have learned to survive where others could not. We understand danger, patterns, and how to respond without panic. The predators recognize that. That's all there is to it." Aerith stared at him, struggling to find words. She had never seen anything like it. She had thought humans weak, fragile, and dependent on technology. She had been wrong. Evan had shown her that human strength was not in brute force, but in intelligence, patience, and the courage to face danger calmly. The princess's guards gathered around, still shaken but safe. They looked at Evan with new respect. Their skepticism was gone, replaced with awe. Even the veteran warriors who had doubted him could not deny what they had witnessed. Evan helped Aerith to her feet. "We must keep moving," he said softly. "The jungle still holds dangers, but for now, we are safe." She nodded, her mind racing. She realized that she had underestimated humans her entire life. She had seen them as fragile, limited, and incapable of extraordinary feats. Evan had proven her assumptions wrong. He had survived predators, outsmarted a Titan Maw serpent, and now commanded apex creatures to protect them from trained alien warriors. As the caravan moved on, Aerith stayed close to Evan, her thoughts filled with admiration and wonder. She could feel the truth of his words, the reality of human resilience, and the depth of their strength. They were survivors, leaders, and strategists in ways no one had fully understood. By the time the sun began to set, the caravan reached the edge of a wide river. Evan paused, scanning the area. Noticing every subtle sign of danger, Aerith watched him, her heart filled with respect and awe. She knew that she had been saved not just by his skills, but by the very nature of humanity. Resilient, clever, and unyielding. The predators, now hidden among the shadows, had returned to their territories, yet Aerith felt a deep sense of gratitude. Humanity had survived, evolved, and adapted to a universe filled with dangers. They had learned to face fear without panic, to lead without arrogance, and to protect without hesitation. Evan turned to her, his expression calm. "You should rest now. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, and the jungle is unforgiving to the tired." Aerith nodded. She could not stop thinking about everything she had witnessed. She realized that humans were not just survivors, they were apex beings in their own way. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long, and she would never make that mistake again. As night fell, the stars appeared above the jungle canopy. Aerith looked at Evan, standing quietly beside the fire. She felt a deep sense of respect, trust, and admiration. The human she had thought weak and inexperienced had revealed the true strength of humanity. Calm intelligence, courage, and the ability to rise above fear. She whispered softly, almost to herself. "I misjudged you, Evan. I misjudged humanity. Thank you. For everything. I misjudged you, Evan Frun. For everything." Evan smiled faintly, a quiet acknowledgement without pride. "Humans survive because we understand fear, and we do not let it control us. That is all." The princess watched him, understanding finally that she had witnessed something extraordinary. Evan was not a novice. He was a human shaped by generations of survival, cunning, and courage. Apex predators had backed away from him. Alien warriors had failed to match him. And yet, he stood humbly, calmly, and quietly, proving the true power of humanity. As the caravan settled for the night, Aerith looked out into the jungle and knew that the stories she would tell would not do justice to what she had seen. Humanity had revealed itself in a way the galaxy had never understood, a species underestimated but unmatched in courage, intelligence, and the quiet mastery of life and death. Evan sat beside the fire, watching the shadows, ready for whatever the jungle would bring next. And Aerith knew, without doubt, that humanity had earned its place as a force that even the fiercest predators respected. The human beside her had shown her that the impossible could be faced calmly, that survival was not about strength alone, and that humanity's true power lay in its ability to rise above fear. The hollow expanse was vast and dangerous, but Princess Aerith walked beside Evan with confidence and trust. She had learned a truth that no map, no history, and no royal education could have taught her. Humans were extraordinary, and she would never underestimate them again.